Welcome everybody to this Alpha Tracker tips and tricks webinar. It's a bit different this time because we're joined by a partner software company, Fastly and Smart. Simon and James have joined us. James isn't on camera, he's too shy. Simon, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Robin. Thanks for the invite today. Great to be with you.
No problem at all. So I'm Robin, I'm a director here at Alpha Tracker. We've also got Jack, who's the product manager for Alpha Tracker. Hi, Jack.
Hiya.
He's here to answer any difficult questions about Alpha Tracker, and James is here to answer any difficult questions about FLS.
Brilliant.
And Simon, what's your job title? What's your role, by the way, at FLS?
Hi, yeah, I head up the partner side here at FLS. So I speak to lots of obviously different software vendors, telematics companies, all sorts of things, and obviously help drive the integration forward with many other software partners too.
Great. Well, you're very welcome, and thanks very much for joining us today.
No, thank you.
Because I know that our Alpha Tracker consultancies are going to be really interested in what you've got to say. So a bit of housekeeping. It's 20 minutes or so. We'll do our best to keep to time. It's being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it afterwards to catch up with anything that you missed on our webinars page on the Alpha Tracker website. Please do ask questions. So if you look in your Zoom toolbar that's come up on the screen, you've got a Q&A window. That's where you ask your questions. Drop any question you like in there. If we don't get to the question in the webinar, Kim will respond afterwards to you with an answer after the webinar. So please do ask as many questions as you like. By the way, we can't see or hear you. That may be a good thing or a bad thing. So if you need to say something or want to say something, pop it in the Q&A window. Thanks very much. So quick introductions then about the products and our integration, because it's the integration that we're showing you today, the integration between Alpha Tracker and FLS Visitour. So Alpha Tracker is an end-to-end business management product for environmental consultancies. Specifically, our target markets are asbestos and water hygiene. End-to-end meaning from first contact with a prospective client through to booking a job in, scheduling the work, scheduling being an important topic for today. That's what we're talking about, dynamic scheduling with FLS. Doing the work on site, automatic reports, invoicing, and then client portal at the end of it. So that's our end-to-end Alpha Tracker journey. Alpha Tracker has been used now to survey more than 4 million buildings. So we've been around a little while, and there's some of the team there on the photo, which is a screen grab from our website. Simon, over to you. What is FLS and what's this all about?
So thanks again, Robin, for the invite. Here at FLS, we provide scheduling. So we provide the scheduling on steroids bit. So we're kind of like enhancing the Alpha Tracker scheduling experience and moving that on to the next level, because a lot of our customers want that next level, especially as they grow and expand, because scheduling gets harder. Bluntly, the bigger you are, the harder it is to do kind of like manually or with some of the tools, the great tools that are already there in existence, obviously within Alpha Tracker.
Okay. So dynamic optimized scheduling, would that be a good summary, a decent summary?
Absolutely. And I think that the next slide really explains to the users what the hell dynamic scheduling is. So I think this one screen explains it brilliantly. Left-hand side is one of our prospective clients, and this is what they were doing in a day. And you can see there, the scheduling was not great. It was all being done manually. The right-hand side of the screen was exactly the same day, but played back using the FLS scheduling tool. So this is where scheduling is one of those things that is a real cost to some users, not just for the back office element, but actually, time in the field. And if you can begin to think about your scheduling better and you can actually do it better, the costs you save are enormous.
And this is real data. This isn't made up data.
Absolutely.
This is a real, wow.
Absolutely.
So they've saved half their money and also just given everybody a simpler day by the look of it, because that diagram on the right is far simpler than the one on the left.
Yeah, it's all about sustainability, hitting those CO2 targets, plus also getting far more out of your workforce. And more importantly, just making sure that you can hit your customers' SLAs on time. That's what it's all about.
Okay. So why would, would an Alpha Tracker customer be, why would they be thinking about dynamic or optimized scheduling then, do you think?
So typically, a lot of our prospective clients, they get to a certain size, normally when they've got about 40 or 50 surveyors out in the field, and suddenly the manual scheduling becomes quite hard. And there's sometimes some little subtle signals that certainly we see out there when we're talking to prospective clients. And I won't go through all these, so don't worry, the audience on the thing. I'm just going to pull out a couple of them or a few of them. I think a real good kind of like early warning signal. But are your engineers spending more time traveling, or are your surveyors spending more time traveling than actually on site? That's a really good early warning symptom. It is are your actually SLAs not being hit properly? That's a really good early warning signal that you might have problems with your scheduling. And then I think also the keeping hold of decent surveyors. Bizarrely, that's a real soft thing that's become so much more important over the last 2 or 3 years, because actually getting those good surveyors is much, much harder now. And if you can make sure they leave home at a decent time and get home at a decent time, you've won half the battle of keeping them happy.
Well, Jack,
So
that's an interesting point, isn't it? Because our customers, especially in asbestos, are always telling us that they struggle to keep good quality staff, surveying staff. So what you're saying there is, as well as the hard benefits, the cash benefits, the fewer miles
absolutely.
benefits, you've got a soft benefit in that your surveying staff might be they might be happier in their job because they're driving less, probably getting home a bit earlier,
Absolutely.
leaving work. Okay.
There's all these other benefits that come out of it, but the obvious ones are obviously things like productivity and hitting your SLAs and all those kind of costs of fuel. But again, there's a lot of subtle benefits that come out of this as well. So absolutely, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So
Yeah. So what's why do you need a product like FLS then? Isn't I mean we do a certain amount of optimizing in Alpha Tracker already, but
yeah.
I'm guessing nothing like what you do in FLS.
No, again, it's all about taking your clients to that next level, because typically when you get at that size, that's what they need. And we find that certainly that there's lots of scheduling tools out there on the marketplace, and quite often, the manual arrangement, there's only so much a human brain can do once you get to a certain size of organization. And where we sit in the process is that we try to sit as close as we can to theoretical optimums, because it's about making sure we're getting the most out of those surveyors' days, because it's not just about optimizing into the future, it's also about optimizing in the in-day piece as well. And this one example here is a really good example of that. Just one guy, 10 visits to do in a day. Again, there's 3.6 million possibilities how that do. Ramp that up to 50, 100, 200 surveyors out in the field. It gets really hard to do manually.
So are
And
you
this is
saying
why
there
using a
that
tool like this
if
is
a
easier.
water hygiene technician has got 10 water monitoring jobs, which could easily have, there are 3.5 million different routes that they could go between the 10. Is that what you're saying there?
3.6.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No,
Okay.
absolutely. What's point
Interesting.
one between
I think
brains?
some of the
Absolutely.
technicians out there probably do most of those routes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is your algorithm enables you to optimize even the complex
Absolutely. And it's all
problems.
about
Okay,
sub-second, not batch, and that's the real key
okay,
thing. It's about real time. And
doing it in real time.
absolutely, how FLS works, just very simply, is it's a completely transparent solution. I think a lot of dynamic scheduling tools out there, some people are put off by them because the planners don't necessarily understand how it works. We're completely transparent because it's a cost-based algorithm, because every job that gets scheduled in FLS has a value or a target value associated with it. So translated, what does that mean? Well, bluntly, if a planner needs to understand, well, why is that job being given to that surveyor over that particular surveyor, they can see that really quickly and easily. And
Okay,
likewise, the reverse is true. When the days are absolutely chock-a-block and someone goes off sick, if you've got to force something in to put someone into overtime, it shows you the least cost option to do it in. And it's all
okay.
about taking into account all these different constraints that are on the left there. You've got to
So
think about
yeah,
opening
Alpha
hours,
Tracker
availability,
out of the box
skills.
will knows about some of those things. So it knows about skills, it knows about location, but it certainly doesn't know about weather. It certainly doesn't know about driving times and busy roads at busy times. And I think
Absolutely. And
FLS does, doesn't it? Is that
and
right?
that's a really nice segue. We'll come on to that in 1 second on the next slide. But
Okay.
I,
Now I
I
think
I think,
I've got a little animated version of this, haven't I?
oh,
Let me see
brilliant.
if I
Thank you.
can bring that
So
up.
again, just for the audience, again, how does FLS work? We just want to show you some of the things that FLS goes beyond most other scheduling tools. So let's take this example here where you've got, 3 engineers. Each of the engineers can do 3 jobs, and a brand new appointment comes in down the bottom there. Now, in most scheduling tools, what we call white space tool, this is not how FLS works. That particular appointment there, it would go, oh, hang on a minute, we can't fit that job in because the pink guy's full, the blue guy's full, and the yellow
Yeah.
guy is too far away. Now,
Okay.
how FLS does it Again, if you just click on one more click there, it's very
Yeah.
simple. We literally at the point that job is offered up, so you ask for an appointment, we're throwing every single job up in the air in the system and going, where could we squeeze it in? And we would know actually we could squeeze it in with the pink guy because we could move one of the pink guy's jobs to the blue guy and one of the blue guy's jobs over to the yellow guy, thus fitting in. And then going on to that next scenario that you said about taking into account speed profiling, this is a really important example, even when you're booking jobs into the future, because you've got a scenario here, engineer lives there at the bottom, little person symbol, and you've got 3 jobs, and that looks like a sensible route, a nice round route. However,
Yeah.
what it doesn't do at the minute is most scheduling tools don't take into account that rush hour traffic. So actually how FLS works is we would route it, slightly differently to avoid that rush hour traffic, because we may have cost the engineer maybe another half mile, but we've saved him 30 minutes in time. And that may be enough time to squeeze that one extra job in for that surveyor in the day. So again, that's a really good example of how
So that's the
FLS
sort.
differs.
Okay, so that is the sort of thing that if the surveyor or the water technician happen to know that patch, they might suggest that route anyway. But this is doing it automatically for everybody,
Correct.
regardless
Because
of the human sort of element.
because embedded in FLS is what we call the TomTom IQ data. It's down to time of day traveling. I won't get too geeky, but again, we just know all that. So there's real-time traffic as well. That's another subject. But when you're booking in advance, you've got to take into account the time of day travel, because if you'll say you're doing 7, 8 jobs a day, even if you get that traveling calculation wrong by maybe
Mm.
5%, you've maybe screwed up their day a little bit later down the line. So really important you take that into account up front in the booking, and that's what FLS does.
Thanks, Simon. I thought that was a really good explanation. So this is where I'm going to show a few screens, and this is where Jack gets nervous. So, because Jack and his team have been integrating Alpha Tracker with FLS. That's what this webinar is all about. It's that integration. So this is Alpha Tracker. This is FLS Visitour. So what I'm going to show is how we've linked the two things together. And I'm going to start out by showing a typical diary in Alpha Tracker where somebody's filled the diary for 3 people and it looks perfectly sensible. But in fact, by sending the data to FLS and bringing it back again, which is just a couple of clicks, literally, we can optimize the schedule and reduce their driving time hugely, increase the amount of available time for them to do their work hugely, and give them, frankly, 3 better days. So that's what I'll show you now. This screen here is a typical Alpha Tracker diary screen. I've got 3 people. I've got Dan, Jack, and Tom. And for the purposes of this, we put in a lot of appointments in towns in Shropshire, and they're real places and they could be real appointments. So I think we put them in Telford and Wolverhampton, Bridgnorth, towns that are around Shropshire, about sort of 30, 40 miles away. And we've also told the system where Dan, Jack, and Tom live. And this looks like a normal appointment screen in Alpha Tracker, and somebody's done their best to optimize. But this is where the connection comes across. So we've now got an option to send this data to FLS, and you can pick a date range. This is FLS Visitour. So at the moment, there's nothing to optimize. But if I click the refresh button here, all of these appointments have now come across from Alpha Tracker. And Visitour, then FLS can optimize and fill the days for Dan, Jack, and Tom. Now, the interesting thing is, if we look at the map, we can start to see it started to bunch them together. It's grouping them. So what it's actually done, it's taken that jumble of Shropshire-based jobs, and by looking at the proximity of the home addresses for those individuals and where those jobs are, it's now grouped them and optimized them and saved us quite a bit of time and money.
Skills, opening hours, all sorts of things as well. Absolutely.
So here's the original diary in Alpha Tracker. Click the refresh button, and it's automatically come back. And this is the new picture. And if I look just at Dan in particular, what it's actually done, and it's quite interesting what it's done, it's picked out 2 here and 3 in Telford, a couple just outside Telford. These are all Bridgnorth and Wolverhampton. Again, nice and easy to get between them. And these, again, are geographically grouped around Bridgnorth by the look of it. So I can see it's interesting when you look at real data, Simon. This is real data that means something to these 3 guys and myself, because this is where we live. Yeah. You can see the logic of what it's doing. But obviously, if this was 50 guys out on site, or 70 guys, or 100 guys, or 200, like some of our clients have, you'd need an army of schedulers, I guess, to optimize.
Yeah.
whereas FLS is just doing it with a click of the button.
Absolutely. Typically, our customer ratio, planners to actually surveyors out in the field, somewhere between 1 to 30, 1 to 60, depending on what those surveyors,
So
what
that,
those planners
okay.
are doing.
So those numbers will mean something to our clients watching the webinar today, because I know that even with a team of, say, 100 staff out on the road, I think our customers would typically have 4 to 6 planners. So that's, your ratio is significantly better. Just one other quick one I'll just show you, which is a make a suggestion feature that we've put in. By the way, Jack, any questions at this point, or should we just carry on? Anything that we've covered a lot of ground already?
One quick question was that, can Alpha Tracker automatically send the appointments to FLS rather than just manually? So you showed a manual export. Can we send them automatically?
Yeah, that's the next thing you're doing, isn't it? We've left it manual at the moment, to be honest, just to give the schedulers that element of control. I think, Simon, that, and I guess you must find this with your new customers, that people want to keep a certain element of control until they're confident in the process.
Yeah, some of our prospective clients kind of like do it in stages, so that they do just as you demonstrated there, where they're just sending a whole day's worth of jobs over and it being optimized, and then actually, more importantly, as you're about to show in a second, getting cost optimized appointments going through. Other of our customers tend to ramp it up from the very beginning, where it's just doing it real time all the time. It's just really down to you. Some of our customers want to lock their days in advance. Some want to make it dynamic during the day, because it's the in-day optimization that also adds a real amount of extra value into this. So it's just down to the client. And again, this is where the flexibility, the integration that you've designed really comes into play to help your clients turn up that accelerator as they want to on the system.
So this one is a make a suggestion feature. Now, we do have a make suggestion feature built into Alpha Tracker, but it's only looking, what it's actually doing is looking for gaps in the diary that fit the length of appointment that you need. That's all it does at the moment. The FLS version of this is quite different. So what I'm saying is, I want an appointment in this date range. I want, in this case, I've clicked the AM button, so a morning appointment, and it's 2 hours long. This is using skills-based Notion. So it's got the skills in there. It's got the person's home address in there. It's got the job. It's got everything in, and it's now made 2 concrete suggestions. So that this particular job, this T58048, is suggesting that Tom would be the best person, and it's given 2 appointments there, and I can just click choose one of those. It puts it straight into Alpha Tracker. So we've hooked. So if you go with an FLS, and obviously you'll need to talk to FLS about setting yourself up with them, but if you do, then we can make that connection and increase the effectiveness of our make a suggestion buttons. So yeah, these concrete numbers. Then this is why people would do this. These are the sorts of improvements that they'd see, Simon, I guess.
Absolutely. So these are just like some real kind of like lowest level kind of like benefits you'll get. But typically, as you'll see in a second, one of the things that we can do is obviously like a scheduling test. But these are the kind of savings that you expect to get as a bare minimum. And that's not even including some of the in-day dynamic optimization that we can do. Because, what happens when an engineer goes off sick? How do you replan that? We just do that sub-second at the click of the button. You put the engineer off sick, surveyor off sick, sorry, and you just redistribute all those jobs around the different surveyors really quickly and easily. So it's also about increasing your capacity. But the scheduling test is something that, please speak to the team at Alpha Tracker about this. You saw this one slide at the top of the presentation. The next slide really is just about showing you here's a real life example again of a scheduling test that we did for another client. This particular client had about 130 surveyors or resources out in the field, and we just did the test on 30 guys over a period of about 4 weeks. So once you ramp these savings up, not just over 4 weeks, but over 12 months, and not just over 30 people, but over 130 people, again, the savings get pretty eye-watering. And this is what we can do for any of you guys that are listening to this today. Just speak to the Alpha Tracker team, and they can organize one of these scheduling tests to take place.
So let me just say that again then. So what you're saying is, for especially the larger consultancies that use Alpha Tracker, if they talk to us, talk to their account manager here at Alpha Tracker, so Kim, Catherine, Zach, Jamie, we can then organize this, and you can run a test through of some real data from their system. So a month's worth or whatever, you can actually demonstrate what saving you could have made them. And that's not to underplay the soft benefit of the actual site staff having a better day. and actually having a more sort of satisfactory experience.
Absolutely.
Very
It's
good.
a really interesting task to do. So feel free just to speak to the Alpha Tracker team about that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Simon. So we've got a QR code there, which will give you more information. We've got our integration page off the Alpha Tracker website, which has got all the details of all the integrations that we offer. As you know, if you're an Alpha Tracker consultancy already, that's one of the big features of working and benefits of working with Alpha Tracker is that we're very open to integrations, and the FLS team have been fantastic to work with. And finally, just a next step slide, I guess, and in case there's any more questions, Jack and James, you just keep an eye on that. So yes, we can offer the scheduling test. So just get in touch with Catherine, Kim, Jamie, Zach, ask for that, and we can organize that for you with FLS. If you need more information about Alpha Tracker, there's our website. More information about FLS, it's the fastleansmart.com/en for the English version. Yeah, there's also, the final thing is a little freebie. FLS have got an ebook which tells you all about dynamic and optimized scheduling. If you contact your Alpha Tracker account manager here, then we can organize you to have a copy of that for free. So there's a little freebie for getting to the end of the webinar. Jack, what questions have we got? Oh, another question. Okay.
There's one question that's coming, I can see from Marvin. Thank you, Marvin, for that. He said there are a few appointments on the optimized version that overlap. Presumably this can be overridden or stopped. Absolutely. It's just down to certain rules. Some of those things may have been combine things on site at the same time. There's so many different things. We can do obviously 2-men appointment, so you've got 2 surveyors on site at the same time. You can do what we call relation type appointments, where one surveyor's got to go in first, and only when they finish can the next surveyor go in. All that is all standard functionality within the FLS scheduling side. So there's loads more that we can do there.
Fantastic. There's a question that I've typed an answer to, but I think it would be very interesting for the rest of the room and viewers. Simon, does FLS work outside of Europe?
Absolutely. So we're actually FLS was originally conceived over in Germany. So no, absolutely, we've got a big presence in mainland Europe as well. So
what about outside Europe? So we've got a big presence in Australia and New Zealand. Is that somewhere you cover?
Yeah, no, we basically cover all the big markets. So basically, all the kind of Australasia, EMEA, Americas, rest of the Americas. So no, absolutely, we cover all those areas as long as we've got the TomTom data for it, which is typically most of the developed countries around the world. We're absolutely fine with it. And that's, as long as we've got the road data, that's where we can really get very precise with things.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining the webinar today. Thanks, Simon. Thanks, James. Thanks, Jack, for keeping us honest and keeping us to time. We're only 2 minutes over, which isn't bad for us. So thank you very much, and see you next time.